It's your favorite conspiracy theorist who points this kind of stuff out all the time. The feds, the people that a lot of you like to defend, the law enforcement arm of all of the rules in our country, they're at it again. They're building a list, and your name's probably on it like mine is, for things like opposing firearm restrictions, lockdowns, vaccine mandates, or support the border security.
Hello, I am California and Texas attorney Michael Eline. I'll teach you how to become a lawyer without law school. Welcome back for another edition of Ask Michael Eline. So today I'm going to talk about something that's kind of blowing my mind, because you keep seeing over the years the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, they keep getting caught spying on American citizens. And after denying it and saying nothing's going on, eventually they're forced to come clean and admit it. And now we've got this huge conglomeration of these multinational corporations, communist China, governments like Canada, all using the same sort of computer programs and different ways of spying on their own citizens to try and create databases based purely on the politics of the individual who they're profiling. So I got a couple of calls from some buddies of mine. So look, I have friends who used to work for the FBI and other government agencies that I'm not going to tell you about right now, who have left in disgust, saying that since basically the Obama administration, that a lot of partisan department heads have been put in place who don't like Christians, white males, conservatives, people who support legal immigration, people who support the right to keep and bear arms, basically natural law, people who support the concept of natural law, that your rights come from a creator, which is what our Bill of Rights is based upon, the John Locke philosophy, which flew in the face of the British philosophy, the Leviathan Hobbesian philosophy, which we see has been sort of adopted by the World Economic Forum, BlackRock, and these other large multinational corporations. The idea is a great, powerful Leviathan that can control every aspect of your life. And now we see that the fears of many civil libertarians may be becoming true. So the Domestic Security Alliance Council, which is basically a private company that's also the government, I mean, I don't know any other way to describe it, tries to apparently help the federal government find loopholes around the Fourth Amendment so they can gather data about you without getting a warrant. Apparently, these people that work for the FBI, a lot of them, department heads and other government enforcement agencies like DHS, likes the idea of keeping their jobs. So you have to create a crisis, you have to create a problem in order to justify your inflated salary and to get a promotion, maybe become a politician or get a revolving door job at Google or Facebook or Instagram, which seems to be the order of the day. Then they'll scoot you over into a job with big tech afterwards, or you get a job at CNN. At least that's what a lot of people are telling me. And so now what we're seeing is, if you shopped at Cabela's, if you shopped at Bass Pro Shop, if you support legal immigration, if you believe in the concept of the Bill of Rights of the Second Amendment, that all men were created equal and have certain unalienable rights, and one of them is the right of self-defense, based upon the definitions of what a bearable arm would be at the time of the founding of the Constitution, that makes you a domestic extremist, possibly a terrorist. It almost sounds exactly like the ADL or the Southern Poverty Law Center, other organizations that rely sometimes on tax grants and things like that to survive. It's sort of like starting a nonprofit to end cancer, but the only way you can make money is to not end cancer. And that's what a lot of people are complaining about as well, is that can you take these organizations seriously when their whole existence is based upon creating something to treat the symptom instead of the cure? So now what we have is civil libertarians for years have been arguing that for-profit media and the feds have been working with China, Canada, and far-left groups like the ADL to usher in a digital currency and a DEI scoring system. In other words, diversity, equity, and inclusion. You have to hire people not based on their qualifications, not based upon their merit, because that's racist, but based upon their skin color to undo, to prove that you're an anti-racist. It's not enough to not be a racist. Now you have to be an anti-racist. And well, that means whatever BlackRock says it is. And they have so much control over political campaigns, these large corporations, over political campaigns and funding, that I'm shocked that this report even came out, to be honest. But basically, you have the great Leviathan. Again, this is a battle between natural law and the Leviathan, as usual, saying that if you're a free thinker, we don't want you around. It's sort of like these basketball players, they make big money, but now China's gotten involved in our basketball leagues. So if you say anything bad about China or the way they treat people, there's a high probability that you could be arrested when you land there. You definitely can't play basketball there. They don't like it. So there is no free speech. You have the same thing going on in Germany and other European countries. Britain, if you say anything bad about the unfettered illegal immigration from Islamic countries where they don't support the British system and way of life, if you say anything bad about those people, then you're considered to be a domestic terrorist yourself and put on a watch list and maybe even put in prison. That's how bad it is. There is no free speech. And so we see these large corporations trying to normalize that in the United States. If you say something they don't like, they'll try to call it hate speech. They'll try to force you to say other people's pronouns to control what you can and can't say. Now, they've grown so bold that their leaders like Klaus Schwab, who want to basically control the world, at least that's what many people say, are saying that we may not even need elections and we may be able to control everything with AI, possibly. Of course, for-profit media and the fact checkers immediately started rolling this stuff back, saying we didn't really say that he supported the concept of elections being done with AI. But I mean, why wouldn't he, when all of his people, like people at Google, people at Meta, are the ones programming the AI? Anyways, here's the video. Check it out.
You do not even have to have elections anymore because you can already predict.
You kind of get the idea. That's Sergey Brin from Google. These are the same people who helped communist China create their public system of controls and social controls, where if you say something bad about the government, you'll be denied your right to travel. You could be denied your ability to take money out of your bank account. And of course, a lot of civil libertarians go, hey, that sounds just like Justin Trudeau. Well, no, duh, because they're all working with the same people. Look, China has been donating tons of money to Western politicians directly and indirectly. They've been doing it since General Charlie Tree under the Clintons in the United States, where they were able to exert enormous amounts of control. China does not want to loan the United States money if we don't restrict our free speech and gun laws. The ultimate idea here is these guys don't like the concept of freedom, and they don't want those same ideas of freedom being passed on to their citizens. Look what happened to France. Look what happened to France. The King of France supports the United States. Concept of individual rights and freedom get passed on to the French, and they end up beheading their king. Well, China doesn't want that. The original idea was with Richard Nixon was that he was hoping by normalizing relations, they would become more like us. Well, actually, what ended up happening is they looked at all the holes in our system because it relied on Christian principles of honesty, decency, and they figured out ways to exploit it. And now they're in the driver's seat, and they are moving heavily along with these big companies to exercise global control. And so here's another example of this. WEF young leaders like Trudeau and Newsom are leading the way. And we saw that with the Canadian truckers. They protested. And of course, Trudeau said they had wrong ideas. It just sounded like something right out of like the Bolshevik revolution. Wrong ideas. Goes ahead and uses this new digital system, which big tech helped create, to shut down people's bank accounts, to restrict them from buying things. Sound familiar? Just like communist China. But what happened? Well, there's still a few conservative justices and judges in Canada who support the concept of individual freedoms that are being stomped out by the Trudeau government. And they ruled that the use of the Emergencies Act to end a truck convoy and to destroy these people was an unjustified infringement of their civil rights. I mean, come on. Can you imagine your president saying you have wrong ideas because you're on the other side of the spectrum that believes in the traditional values of freedom and dignity. So that's what people are facing in Canada. And now we see the same thing happening in the United States with the CIA begging Congress to please allow us to keep spying on our own citizens. And then we see how China planted an FBI mole who was only discovered after they gutted the CIA's spy network. So you see what's going on. It's just crazy stuff, right? And then you see these non-governmental organizations where these government employees are going back and forth from pharma, big tech, from the FBI, CIA, back and forth to big tech, and they're getting, big tech's like basically able to skirt Section 230 and pretty much do whatever they want, and they're supporting one of the political parties, so they're getting political cover, and the people they're targeting are apparently white males, religious people, and people who support the Constitution. So what's the database that the FBI used? Well, several. I mean, they've misused the NSA databases, but now there's these other databases, the DSAC database. This is this private public corporation that the FBI and the Biden administration are moving full steam ahead to spy on you. Okay, so now we see there was a 2023 Wired article. This is kind of old news, right? But basically, the government is trying to use these public-private partnerships to buy their way out of constitutional protections over we the people. And they're flouting laws about buying information, even though Congress and the Supreme Court have made clear this malarkey has to stop. So now a new report came out a couple days before the State of the Union, exposing massive government surveillance of U.S. citizens through their financial data. Sound familiar? Just like Canada, just like communist China, just like the guy that was sitting next to Klaus Schwab, his company helped China develop that system, which they're now trying to weaponize against us, allegedly. I'm not saying that they are. I don't want to get banned, right? Because if you say something that's true, you might get banned. Now, findings of the Judiciary Committee are that Barclays Bank, Charles Schwab, all these different banks, PayPal, are using keyword filtering to look up things like firearms-related purchases, MAGA, if you support the last president, domestic violent terrorist, of course. If you support any views that support the Second Amendment or traditional American values, pretty much, you're probably a domestic terrorist, according to these people. So what is this? Well, this is an unlawful public-private leviathan, in my opinion. I believe that the Office of Intelligence and Analysis and these other organizations, the DSAC, they're targeting people because they have what people consider to be conservative political views and other constitutionally protected activities using their financial record. This is why you can never, ever allow the government to go to a digital currency, because even you far leftist Marxists who believe the government should control every aspect of your lives, if somebody gets in power that you don't like a Trump, they're going to weaponize this stuff against you. You should support having a currency system that allows you the most privacy and avoidance possibilities as possible, so you're not constantly in fear and fear of arrest and being jailed by your government, which is what China does. And we don't want that here. We're different than them. Okay, so the FBI and the DHS has been requesting this financial information without warrants. So they're not getting warrants, and they're basically just going after people who dissent. Basically, the same kind of people King George would have gone after prior to the American Revolution. It's the same playbook. There's no difference, according to many experts. So what do we do? Well, here we go. Let me show you some more stuff, folks. So what this is really about is this is an ancient battle between natural law and the great Leviathan. This is a Hobbes and Locke battle. For China to keep loaning the U.S. money, they need to see that our freedoms are restricted. And free thought and free speech is the enemy of communism. Natural law, especially free speech, and the right to throw off an unjust government are an exponential threat to communism. And that is why, in my opinion, Marxists and leftists attack people who believe in God, who believe in a higher power, because they know that most of us who believe in natural law, where the Bill of Rights comes from, believe that our rights came from a creator and that our rights can't be taken away. Well, that is a real threat to globalism, because globalism rests on the Leviathanic concept that your rights come from man. And of course, who is the man? Well, the king and the king's men. So in this case, literally, the Bank of England is still the king, and all these great bankers who are basically his courtiers. So you have all these large corporations. The same thing, is nothing's changed. So One report falsely equates white males and other people who disagree with a lot of left-wing government policies. It automatically and falsely equates them with the KKK. So the report basically says if you're a conservative, you're basically like the American Nazi Party. And FinCEN, the Financial Information Center, basically says you're the same thing. So now all this information is being used to affect your social credit score, which right now is secret to you, but the government is in fact creating a social credit score on you, and they absolutely intend on using it against you once they get enough numbers. And they can do that by flooding the country with illegal aliens and redistricting all of the red states blue using census numbers. None of the illegals even have to vote. All they need is their bodies. And so what does Biden say? Well, Biden says, well, if you support legal immigration, that means you're anti-immigrant. So Biden says Republicans need to pass his law to stop illegals from being citizens and killing them. The Lake and Riley debacle ended up coming up at the State of the Union address. Republicans say all we really need to do is to restore President Trump's original executive order and build a wall. His original executive order said, hey, if you're an illegal, shelter in place in your country and we'll consider your case as it comes. In the meantime, there's a legal pathway to immigration, just like 99% of the people in the world who used to come here. They would get in line, they would take a test, we could make sure that they're not a communist or a threat to this country, right? And now we're just ushering them across with the help of tax-funded non-governmental organizations. So what's going on is now we've got an illegal immigrant from Honduras the other day. We just have nonstop reports of people getting raped and attacked by illegal aliens, murdered. And this all came on the heels of, according to Republicans, of President Biden signing his executive order, which reversed Trump's policies. So Biden openly admitted at a State of the Union address, who knows if it was a gaffe, the guy can barely talk, that people are getting killed by illegals. However, the Democrats got really angry that he called them illegals, even though that's what the United States Code calls people who sneak into the country or come across illegally without permission.
Lincoln Riley, an innocent young woman who was killed by an illegal. That's right. But how many of thousands of people being killed by illegals? To her parents, I say, my heart goes out to you, having lost children myself. I understand.
Now, what also came out a couple days before that is 300,000 plus undisclosed illegals were flown in, apparently secretly. But of course, the lapdog press and their fact checkers are all saying, oh, well, that's crazy. It's not a secret. I mean, these people are vetted. However, we contacted the Biden administration and no one's returned our calls yet. About how many of these people that he flew across so nobody would know they were walking across, even though they came in at like 3 a.m. or coming into air bases. But it's not a secret, right? Because you got to believe they're fact checkers, right? Because it cost them a lot of money to buy all these news stations. So now we have reports of them flying people in from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans, but none of them have told us how many of the people they flew across have been convicted or accused of rape, murder, or crimes. Well, they won't tell us that. So, you know a lot about who they are by what they don't tell you. All right, so basically, here you go, and I just want to show you. So I'm just going to show you, this video. Illegals who came across, it's just crazy, and they just keep on coming. All right, so basically here is a screenshot of this secret program that they were doing to classify you and your family members who support the Constitution or rule of law as a potential domestic terrorist. So if you support the Center for Immigration Studies, the Federation for Immigration Reform, you're anti-LGBTQ if you support parents being notified whether or not their children are being secretly transitioned in public schools. You're anti-Muslim if you support people being vetted before they come into the country to make sure they're not on the terror watch list, all this stuff. So this is what's going on, guys. People just fresh out of the university, got hired by the administration. They've been put in a position of power, and they're over there working with big tech and all their fact checkers to classify people like you and I as crazies, right? So because of that, that information could be used to harm your reputation. It's clearly a violation of your civil rights. It's clearly a violation of your privacy rights, say many experts. And there are many potential defendants who you can sue as state actors who are acting basically as the government or instrumentalities thereof, including the FinCEN, the Department of the Treasury, the Biden administration, the FBI, Barclays Bank, and all these other private companies who are working hand in hand to tarnish your reputation and paint you as something that you clearly are not. Now, these NGOs and these private corporations, the line is no longer blurred. They're really, according to many experts, at least what I'm seeing with my own eyes as a lawyer, these people are no different than the government. They are working hand in hand with the government. They have a revolving door employment scheme where one hand washes the other. They lobby, they get jobs back and forth with different senators, congressmen, or department heads with the CDC, FDA, FBI, you name it. They're all working for these private companies going back and forth, and their primary mission is to make you look like a domestic terrorist. Are you freaking kidding me? This is why Elon Musk is so furious, and that's why the Twitter files were so important, because they blew the door off of this public-private partnership to target and label people as terrorists or evil because they disagree with their political views. Now, potential plaintiffs include you, ordinary citizens, Dick's Sporting Goods, Cabela's, Bass Pro Shops, religious institutions, booksellers, gun stores, you name it. I mean, these people are all being, basically, by the government doing this, they're sending also a message to all these banking institutions. Don't do business with white male Christians who support the Constitution, because you might go on this list too. This is just like what happened when you saw the Communist Chinese Revolution, the same kind of garbage. Now, you can sue under also what they call a state actor theory, where they're so closely associated with the government that you can literally sue them as if they were the government under a state actor theory, under civil rights. So there might be hope for you if your reputation was tarnished. You can also sue under a government instrumentality theory. The potential claims, as I said, civil rights, there's equal protection issues. If they're just targeting white males and Christians, that's a problem, right? Invasion of right to privacy, conspiracy, RICO, tortious interference with business relations, obviously defamation. They're clearly trying to defame you and your business and everything about you by giving you these false classifications and basically making people inside the government believe you're the enemy. So there's a lot of brainwashing within these government institutions to rewrite history, and with these DEI initiatives and diversity hires and getting rid of merit to basically just put their political lackeys in charge. And that's what's really been going on. Now, the problem is you've got to find all this information. Well, the way you can start is with a FOIA request. Just start doing FOIAs, guys, left and right. And then after that, get yourself a good personal injury civil rights attorney. Again, everything that I do here is separate and apart from my work as a personal injury attorney in California and Texas. Please make sure to always like and subscribe. Make sure to share and make sure to save. And make sure to save it on your own computer, because you never know when Big Brother is going to come after me and try to completely ban this channel and everything that I'm talking about, because I'm the only person out there who's really sharing stuff that's important. In the meantime, Semper Fidelis, and have a great day. Hoorah.